Hello, everyone. I'm Stephen Pitalo from Sumitomo Corporation of America's Corporate Communications Department, and this is SUMICAST. And I'm lucky enough today to be talking to Tom Elliott, who is the General Manager of Mineral Resources Division, as well as President of Sumitomo Canada Limited. Welcome, Tom. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
So let's start at the beginning. So where did you grow up, and how did you sort of become interested in the field that you're interested in?
Sure. So I grew up in Canada. I'm a Canadian. I spent the first 10 years of my life in the nation's capital, which is Ottawa, and then the next 10 years in a suburb of the largest city, which is Toronto. Um, I come from a family of scientists and engineers. Mom was a nurse, dad, two brothers, uncle were engineers. So I ended up studying geochemistry at university.
Geochemistry. What is geochemistry?
Geochemistry is just like it sounds like. It's a combination of chemistry and geology. And so that really was my entry into the mining industry. I also have a love for nature, the outdoors, and international travel. And so mineral resources, which is my area, it gives you an exposure to those two things that other industries, might not as much. You're in exploration, you're out in the field, you're in Mother Nature, you're kicking rocks. And then with commodities, sort of mine commodities, they're global in nature. So that kind of catered to the interest in international travel.
Now, was there a moment in this learning process, maybe high school, maybe college, that sparked your interest in mineral resources or in, as you said, geochemistry? Was there sort of a moment that you were like, oh, I think I want to do this?
I think the moment happened in fourth year university, the last year, when I kind of had narrowed myself into this geochemistry thing. To be honest, I have a BSc in undergraduate, but I'd always and I kind of bounced around a bit, to be frank. I started in sort of pre-med, realized I didn't want to do that, then biochemistry, straight chemistry, and ended up in geochemistry, and that felt good. And then I think it was just kind of a linear kind of continuation of that, where it was a tough market that I graduated into in the early 90s, a recession, but I was lucky to get a job. My first job was at a precious metals refinery in Norway. So
Norway.
Yeah, so that kind of reinforced the interest in international commodity markets, and it also spawned a love and a respect for the Nordic countries. And then
Now, let me just ask
yeah.
real quick. Did you have to learn a foreign language to do this?
No, thankfully.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I mean I speak French, but
Right.
that's not useful in Norway, of course.
I guess not.
And like many countries nowadays, the Norwegians speak perfect English, basically all of them. So
Okay.
language. I think, having said that,
Yeah.
before I left that job, I did have to kind of provide an owner's manual for what I'd done, and I wrote it in both English and Norwegian. But I had a lot of help from a dictionary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, for Norwegian, what's the sort of root in Norwegian? Is it Latin? Is it
I think it's Germanic.
Germanic?
I think, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
So we'll let the listeners determine what's correct.
Okay. Now you've held leadership roles in several different areas. So your climb gave you skill sets in several different areas: investment banking, exploration, corporate development, I would say, and investor relations. Now, does a diverse background like that does that help shape the current strategy that you have for the area where you're working?
Yes, I think is the short answer. And first, let me acknowledge that, certainly for mineral resources, I suspect it's the case throughout Sumitomo that, the strategy is a collaborative effort, right? Like, we obviously have huge input and direction from leadership in Japan. We have the same from leadership here in the Americas. And then obviously the various team members contribute to that strategy. So it's a group effort, right? And there's a lot of alignment, which is good. My personal contribution maybe is, yeah, with that diverse background, I hope I can help, which is, we've talked about the technical background. I also have an MBA, a business degree, so I've got the financial piece.
Where did that come from? What I mean is, where were you when you got that degree?
Yeah, so I worked in the mining industry for 4 years, and then I did an MBA again up in Toronto or up in Canada at the University of Toronto. So that came kind of in my late 20s. Yeah, so I've got the technical and the financial background. So I think that can help as we're trying to assess assets or businesses, which ones are better to go into, which ones are better to avoid, which businesses might we want to divest. I've mentioned a couple of international assignments. So I think that can help with the international nature of the industry. Mining's a global industry, and so it's good to have an opinion or an education on the different countries, right? From a risk management perspective. I've got the M&A background, which you mentioned, so I think that helps with as we assess these investments.
I imagine risk assessment, risk management, things like that.
Yeah.
Having a background in that is helpful because mining can absolutely be a hit and miss.
Totally.
But then again, is the science now? It's got to be better than it used to be when you would go looking for the mineral resources,
right,
as to whether they were going to be there or not. Imagine the science is extremely precise by now.
Yeah. So two things there. One, in the risk piece, for sure, mining's a risky business, right? Because I hate to say it, but it's true. You're going to different geographies. You've got these host countries, and I think Sumitomo, like other companies, does obviously try to conduct business in countries that are supportive and workable, and as low risk as possible, acknowledging that we have to go where Mother Nature has put the best quality resources. The flip side of that is mining is also an industry with it can have tremendous opportunity from a say a geological perspective, right? Where you think the deposit's this big and it ends up being twice as big or 10 times as big, right? You just never know what's below the surface. And commodity prices are the same way. They're cyclical and there can be ups and downs, right? And so on the downside, you've got a trough, but on the upside, you can have these tremendous peaks and crests and spikes. So I think you got to be mindful of both those things. And then to your question about the science, has it gotten better over the years? The answer is absolutely yes. I mean, I think I'm joking now, but I think some people have an image of mining of an old timer with a cowboy hat and a pickaxe and a donkey. And those years, while they do exist in say some of the more rural kind of artisanal kind of emerging areas, mineral resources is actually a very high-tech industry. I mean, we've got multiple satellites pointed on the walls of our open pits. There's tons of, as we discussed earlier, chemistry and stuff that goes into metallurgy. It's AI. There's EVs everywhere. So the way you can make more profits is by using technology to see more and to extract more at lower costs.
Sumitomo obviously has a legacy in mineral resources going all the way back. The Beshi copper mine, copper's always been like a big deal to Sumitomo. But what role do you see the mineral resources division taking as the globe continues to try to transition to cleaner models, to more sustainable materials, et cetera? Sometimes mineral resources doesn't exactly run parallel with that, but it seems like we're getting better at it.
For sure. I think that's a very good summary. I mean, first, just a nod to Beshi, right? Like, I mean, it's for a mineral resources person to work for a company whose foundation is a copper mine that ran for 300 years and closed, I think it was in the 1970s. That's a pretty amazing heritage and legacy. So that, I mean, that is something that comes up a lot. And I think also, just to make a nod to the sustainability practices that emerged from that. I mean, I think Sumitomo is regarded as doing that kind of thing centuries before it became, so popular and so ingrained as it is today, which both are good things. Yeah. In terms of the role of the mineral resources division, we are definitely focused on and aligned with commodities that are part of this energy transition, the future facing minerals, as they're called, or carbon, that could have a role in carbon reduction. So just some examples are, some of our priorities include more copper, as you mentioned. I mean, even though it's our foundation, it is amongst our preferred commodities today. We have 4 existing investments in copper mines in the Americas. Okay. And we're trying to find opportunities where we could add to that. And copper, as you know, is critical to the energy transition. It goes into batteries, you conduct electricity with it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's critical. Similarly, iron ore would be an area of focus for us. And we're particularly interested in iron ore that can go into making green steel, where the carbon that comes out of the process is much less than, say, the traditional way.
As I understand it, there's even possibly coming down the pipe some pig iron processes that are coming about. Is that something
exactly right? Yeah, that's one of them. You've got DRI, HBI, pig iron. Those are various lower carbon steel products or precursors. And just to round out the list, I mean, we're absolutely looking in what's called light metals. So aluminum, titanium, these, as the name implies, they're lighter weight. Therefore, there's less carbon produced as you burn fuel to kind of move whatever object you're trying to go forward. And we're looking in some of the battery areas, whether it's lithium, and we have existing nickel and cobalt operations, not in the Americas but elsewhere in the Sumitomo portfolio. So we have an investment with Peñoles today. It's called Tizapa, and it's in Mexico. It's more silver, zinc, lead. So that's still precious on the silver side.
Got it.
We did have a gold mine prior to that, which is called Pogo, up in Alaska, which we divested a few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd say our focus today is more on sort of the non-precious metals from a asset ownership perspective, more on, say, the base metals, the bulk commodities. We do trade precious metals here in the Americas with the SCMI. We do a lot of trading in silver, gold, PGMs.
You worked with major players prior to Sumitomo, Kinross, UBS. How would you compare Sumitomo's approach to investments, since those particular players had their way of doing it? What do you think of the Sumitomo investment process when it comes to partnerships in the mining sector?
A good question. I think the shortest answer, at least for mineral resources, is that our investment structure can be more flexible depending on the situation. So a lot of the companies I worked for or worked with, they wanted to own 100% and control the operation. Sumitomo's approach can be more flexible, where depending on the situation. So for example, for a giant asset, really big, we might be happy with a smaller minority piece, but you still got to appropriate exposure to the operation and to the commodity and to the industry. In other situations where maybe the operation might be a little bit smaller, we're prepared to consider uh, owning a larger piece, owning a majority, perhaps operating, um, which digression, but that operating track record is something that's unique to Sumitomo amongst the other Japanese trading houses, at least in the mineral resources space. So we've operated San Cristobal in Bolivia for many years. We currently operate in Batavi in Madagascar. So I guess digression from the original question, but in summary, yeah, our investment approach can be more flexible depending on the situation.
As someone who's seen mining from the markets end of it, but also from the operations end of it, what are some emerging trends and technologies in mineral resources that are really exciting to you right now?
Mm-hmm. So, in terms of trends, I think the biggest one we've already talked about, which is this energy transition, carbon reduction, which, thankfully, mineral resources can play a big role in, right? We can provide the commodities that the world needs. So that's good. Um, the second one I'd highlight is geopolitics, and it's always a trend, but I think it's a little more pronounced right now. Um, as I said, given we invariably go to host countries where these mineral deposits are, um, what's happening with the governments matters. And two countries I'd highlight. One would be the U.S. and the other would be Argentina. So, with respect to the U.S., I think we're all very well aware of the tariffs that are going on between nations, right? Which are understandable, and that obviously has an influence on a company's strategy, right? And in Sumitomo's case, we're lucky enough that we have two of our main investments are in the United States. So we have an investment in a large copper mine in Arizona, and we have an investment in a large aluminum rolling mill in Kentucky. So it's good to have production from those operations where the product goes to the area that you're selling, tariff free. And so as a consequence, we are looking at potentially, increasing our investment in the U.S. in various commodities. Um, and then with respect to Argentina, it's historically, well, it's a wonderful country in terms of people and food and wine and all this sort of thing, but it's been a bit of a difficult country from an investment perspective. And uh, it's not over or done, but uh, it's getting better. Under President Milei, there's been various reforms, and I'd say the politics and the economic environment and the investment environment are encouraging. We're looking at that. We're getting smarter on the situation. I'll just leave it at that. In terms of technology, as I said, mining is a very high-tech industry, which I could elaborate on more. But we are dabbling. We do have some small investments in some new technologies in the mining industry. These include we have an investment in a company that's basically through pressurized injection is getting more copper out of old leach pads. So that kind of improves the efficiency of an operation and at a very low cost. We have equally.
For those who don't know what a leach pad is,
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
How would you describe
Leach
a leach
pad is where you mine the rock and you literally just put it in a pile, and then you put solution on top of it.
Okay.
And so that's how you get, in this case, copper out of the rock, out of the ore.
Okay.
Maybe a similar explanation might be required for the next one I was going to highlight. We have an investment in a technology that gets rare earth elements out of I guess I'll just call it waste from aluminum, from the production of aluminum. I guess maybe that's a little more straightforward. Brazil right now, our current investments in iron ore, right? Which is, this comes back to your pig iron comment. Yeah, So we are looking at a project in Brazil called Compact, which is an expansion of our existing mine. Um, and the specific type of ore that we'd be going to get can be used in, as I said, this production of greener steel.
We hadn't really talked much about Canada.
Mm.
And you're the president of Sumitomo Canada
Mhm.
Limited. Now, with your background in and your current responsibilities in mineral resources, um, what has been your strategy when it comes, to sort of an overall business strategy when it comes to Sumitomo Canada? Are some of the things that you're using in the business of mineral resources translatable, or is this just a whole new ball game to begin with? And you've been in the job for several months now,
Yeah.
so just getting your feet wet, I guess, when it comes to Canada. Um, how is that?
Yeah, and just like mineral resources, the approach to Canada is a team sport for sure. In terms of the other, particularly the other business division heads, the CXOs, and the staff in Canada, of course. But let me start by saying, yeah, when I first took the role, I think Tim and Teresa were quite helpful in helping me understand some of the responsibilities, and some of those are what would fall into, say, the administrative categories in terms of HR, finance, IT, and ensuring that the activities up there are wholly compliant with our standards throughout the world. Um, and then I would add to that, when Wadasan and I talked about the role, he was really excited about Canada, I think, from a business development perspective, to grow the business in Canada. Um, I think one of my first memories of Sumitomo was the first management meeting I attended where Wadasan encouraged all the division GMs to, quote, discover Canada. It's a country, a lot like the US in that it's stable, it has a skilled workforce, it has a good investment environment. Presently, most of our business up there is on the trading side. So we are looking at, growing our trading businesses, of course, but also potentially adding asset investments. And that's where my background, I think, in M&A, the fact that I'm a Canadian, I think that can help. And
There
let
are
me,
initiatives that I recall, like Invest Alberta,
yeah,
that have come around, and I'm sure that's very encouraging to have people coming forward saying, "Hey, we really do want to do business with you."
for sure. Yeah, and we still get that, with the Canadian governmental organizations. And I'd say Canada as a nation is at a very interesting time. It's a bit like the U.S. with the drill baby drill, but the moniker in Canada is build baby build. So you've got the federal government and the provincial governments that are really encouraging investments in some of areas that play to Sumitomo's strengths, whether it's energy, roads, uh, railways, mineral resources, etc. So I think it's all. I mean, I'm hopeful, optimistic that we can find some things we like. We can grow the business up there. Um, it's a good country, and then we do have these kind of opportunities in front of us. So
Great. So thank you again, Tom, for speaking with us today about Mineral Resources Division business, as well as being president of Sumitomo Canada Limited. And good luck to you.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here and my pleasure to chat.